Hi, this is Free Thinking Through the Fourth Turning. My name is Sasha Stone. A Christian conservative SCOTUS was once my greatest fear, but now my cup runneth over. I once believed that the worst thing that could happen to this country was to have a conservative Supreme Court. That was supposed to be the end of everything. I would scream those words into the abyss all through 2016 to anyone who didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton. The Supreme Court. I grew up on the left, after all, and nothing scared us more than Christianity in our schools, in our corporations, institutions, and in our courts. If Trump won, he would appoint conservative Christians to the highest court in the land, and that would be the end of Roe v. Wade, the end of the feminist movement and women's rights. Well, it turns out we didn't need conservative Christians to do that. The left did it all on their own, leaving just one right in place, the right to terminate a pregnancy, or if you prefer, kill our babies. We use soft language like choice and terminate as though that changes the reality. Now that the left has been assured that the pace of abortion did not slow down, and women can use abortion like reproductive bulimia, have fun now, deal with the problem later, they've moved on to more pressing matters. I don't think abortion should be illegal, but you know what should be? Gender-affirming care for minors. That is the most grotesque example of soft language ever invented by my former side. Call it what it is: sterilization. Top surgery is a double mastectomy. Bottom surgery is castration. In all the ways I feared religion and Christianity infiltrating our schools and institutions has now been left in the dust by a dangerous, fanatical, unstoppable cult that has left too many young men and women destroyed and mutilated in its wake. What a fool I was. Now I am so grateful for conservative Christians. I'm so grateful to Donald Trump, who put them on the court. I am glad we lost, even if I didn't know that in 2016. Now I do. Now I can see. Because Hillary Clinton lost, we did not get control of the court, and thank God for that. Because if we had, there is no way the bill from Tennessee to ban gender-affirming care would have been upheld.
The Supreme Court delivered one of its most consequential decisions of this term this morning, ruling in a 6-3 opinion led by the conservative justices that it upheld a Senate bill from Tennessee, from the state Senate in Tennessee, that prohibits medical care for gender-affirming care for minors who are seeking to change the gender from the body they were born into. It specifically prohibits doctors from administering puberty blockers that would keep a child from undergoing puberty to become an adult male or female if they do not believe that is the body they were born into. Now, the dissent, led by the court's 3 liberal justices, said that instead SB 1, that bill from Tennessee, deserved scrutiny under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, because they say that it should be scrutinized to see if it discriminates based on the basis of sex.
Like everyone else on my former side, I was convinced Trump's win in 2016 would be the end of everything we held dear, especially the Supreme Court. We'd been fighting with the right for years to get control of it. We watched Merrick Garland's appointment obstructed and we fumed. After Trump won, we became an unhinged, hysterical, angry mob of women who felt it was our right to convict Justice Kavanaugh of rape in the court of public opinion.
So what started as a trickle of civil disobedience there on the steps of the Supreme Court has become this, just outright anger and upset that Brett Kavanaugh is being not only confirmed today, but is being sworn in right now. Those are the very doors of the Supreme Court. There are hundreds of protesters who have now come up onto the stairs.
Chairman, I'd like to be recognized to ask a question before we proceed. The committee received just last night, less than 15 hours ago, 42,000 pages of documents that we have not had an opportunity to review or read or analyze.
You're out of order. I'll proceed.
This is a travesty of justice. This is a travesty of justice, morality. You can listen to the people here. Are you concerned about?
Tell us to our faces. Look at us. Look at us.
I've had people
Look at us. Look at us. Look at us.
They tell you what happened to them, you're going to ignore them. That's what happened to me, and that's what you're telling all women in America, that they don't matter. They should just keep it to themselves, because if they have told the truth, you're just going to help that man to power anyway. That's what you're telling all of these women. That's what you're telling me right now. Look at me when I'm talking to you. You're telling me that my assault doesn't matter, that what happened to me doesn't matter, and that you're going to let people who do these things into power. That's what you're telling me when you vote for him. Don't look away from me. Look at me and tell me that it doesn't matter what happened to me, that you'll let people like that go into the highest court of the land and tell everyone what they can do to their bodies.
And to demonize and depict Amy Coney Barrett as the handmaid.
Women marched in cities across the U.S., including New York and the nation's capital, urging Americans to cast their ballots.
You don't care, people die. Pro-life is a lie. You don't care, people die.
Okay, so I see that we are approaching Justice Barrett's house because I see the federal marshal standing on the driveway. So they're going to arrive there in about 30 seconds, and we'll see what happens. I only count a few plus some police officers who are kind of in the circle at the end here, but we'll see what happens.
No KKK, no fascist USA! No Trump! No KKK, no fascist USA! No Amy! No KKK, no fascist USA! No Amy! No KKK, no fascist USA!
But what I know now that I did not know back in 2016 was that when a society excuses and allows for the young to be sterilized, that's when the bottom drops out, whether it's eugenics or gender-affirming care. I didn't see the problem. I was comfortable with the soft language of the left. We were the good people standing up for marginalized groups. It took me years to realize just how insane the left had become. But it's one thing if it's just about cancel culture, destroying Hollywood, comedy, art, and book publishing. It's a whole other thing if we're allowing irreversible harm to be done to the minds and bodies of children. But thankfully, God invented conservatives, and they rose to do what we could not, just as they did back before the Civil War to end slavery, and for the same reason. They believed it was morally wrong. Now they are back to stop the Democrats for doing something morally wrong. It's the Christian right yet again that is on the right side of history. I'm not a religious person, though I wish I could be. I imagine there is relief in that connection to something more powerful than yourself. And maybe that is what so many of these young people need, not gender-affirming care. This detransitioner realized she was made in God's image, which helped her find her way out of it.
Hey, I just want you to know that this is what it looks like when a Christian goes through a breakdown. Not every Christian has as many issues as I do, but you're never too broken to come to him. Never. But I know he's gonna get me through it. And sometimes it's hard to believe that. But I know what his word says, and I know that his word is true, and I know that any negative thoughts that I have are not from him.
I also believed religion was dangerous and destructive, but whatever I thought about religion, and whatever the left thinks about it now, it can't touch what madness has been manifested by the left. Look at what they've done.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I work at Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest, and I'm a nurse practitioner and the director of our gender-affirming hormone therapy program. Patients seeking hormone therapy have faced health disparities from other providers, and when they come to see us, they are so thankful, and they really tell me how grateful they are for these services that we can provide.
Here is Jamie Reed, the whistleblower.
And again, if you were put on blockers first, it would render you potentially infertile for life. And now we also know for the kids, the boys, if we block you and put you on feminizing hormones, we also are potentially making you have sexual dysfunction for life.
What do you mean by sexual dysfunction?
So in the boys, blockers make it so that they never grow the penis or the testicles. If you never go through puberty and you never have those hormones affect that area, you are left with the same kind of penis size that you would have, that kids have when they're little before they go through puberty. And then also we knew that the feminizing hormones would make it so you had a lot of erectile dysfunction, the testicles would shrink and atrophy, and we would be causing changes to that part of the body that were irreversible.
I hate to state the obvious, but those are some pretty major changes for a young person to undergo and experience.
And the fact that a young person could have that start happening to them after seeing a therapist twice and an endocrinologist once, to me, does not ethically line up.
The school year in 5th grade, my daughter, when she was 10, her teacher emailed me and he was using a different name. And I actually thought that he had the wrong parent, but I went to her room and I saw that she had written this name on her dresser. And she actually said they, them too. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Do you have a new nickname? And she was like, yeah. I didn't really think that much of that at the time. Fast forward a few months into the year, I get a call from the school counselor, and she says that my daughter used the words with a friend, suicide and cutting. And she kind of sold to me the idea of using this special therapist that was contracted with the school. Because she was under 13, I had to come in and talk to this therapist and give her written permission. At 13, I might not have even known that she was seeing this therapist. So at 13 in our state, children can get their own mental health without a parent's consent or knowledge. In addition, they can also get medical health without their parent's consent or knowledge. And a parent will be billed by the insurance without an explanation of benefits. My daughter saw her for 2.5 months, a half-hour session every week. And during this whole entire time, I'm asking her, what's going on with my daughter? She would say things like, how are things going at home? And I was like, you know, they're fine. So I just figured that nothing big had come up. So she calls me right before the pandemic hit, and she's using male pronouns for my daughter. And she's calling me to let me know that we're gonna have this meeting where she's gonna help our daughter come out to us as a boy. She's giving me 3 days to process that. The big thing that the therapist wanted to talk to us about and had to get permission from us for was that my daughter wanted to stay in the boys' cabin at the overnight camp. We were never gonna let her do that. I mean, I don't care who she thinks she is. There's so many reasons not to put a girl in a cabin with a bunch of boys and a male adult teacher. So many safeguarding fails. The school had to ask us.
Christianity, we all believed, was a source of bigotry against gays and lesbians. We wanted no part of that. I still don't. But today I am grateful that they've been fighting this fight, because I do not think we could have done it without them. Matt Walsh has been relentless. He's not only reported on the horrors of gender-affirming care on his show, but also appeared in town halls and government, and helped push the fight in Tennessee to ban the practice. He deserves much credit today.
The Supreme Court has ruled in favor of our law in Tennessee banning child mutilation, quote-unquote, gender transitions of minors. And this just happens, and more than a birthday present for me, it's, of course, a huge win for all the children, all the kids who will now be protected from this brutality, from this butchery.
Speeches. Those in power are denying the existence of women.
Tense moments and constant fights to be loudest.
These people here, they don't want you to hear what we have to say.
The rally against gender-affirming care for trans youth brought out supporters and protesters who filled Legislative Plaza, many coming from out of state to hear from conservative commentator Matt Walsh.
Transition for people who have not, in your studies from what I've read, can you speak to that?
Mr. Walsh, you recognize.
Sure. Well, the claim that doing the chemical castration drugs or surgery or hormonal intervention, the claim that this prevents suicide or has positive psychological effects down the line is utterly, totally baseless. There are no credible long-term studies that bear that out. And one of the reasons for that is that there couldn't possibly be any credible long-term studies because we've never done this to kids on this scale ever before in history. So this current, shall we say, crop of children, they are the guinea pigs. This is all experimental. We're sort of trying it out on them to see if it works. Now, they have attempted a few times to do studies, and the interesting thing is that the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, WPATH, which is a radical far-left pro-trans organization, they commissioned a study to try to prove that that hormones and puberty blockers decrease suicide rates among trans-identified youth. And even in their own study, they found that they couldn't prove it. They couldn't make that link because it's just not possible to do.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you give us a summary of your educational background or your healthcare education experience?
Mr. Walsh, you recognized.
My experience in healthcare?
Your educational background. I'm just curious. You've testified as to a lot of your own research. So I'm curious for what purpose you do that and what background you have to qualify you to speak to that.
Well, my background that qualifies me to speak to this is that I'm a human being with a brain and common sense, and I have a soul. And so, therefore, I think it's a really bad idea to chemically castrate children. That is my experience. Also, I did, now it's true, I didn't go to college, but I did go to school long enough to learn how to read, so I can read the data for myself, and that's exactly what I've done.
I would thank you all for allowing me to speak to you tonight, but you tried not to allow it, yet here I am. Now, you only give us 60 seconds, so let me get to the point. You are all child abusers. You prey upon impressionable children and indoctrinate them into your insane ideological cult, a cult which holds many fanatical views, but none so deranged as the idea that boys are girls and girls are boys. By imposing this vile nonsense on students to the point even of forcing young girls to share locker rooms with boys, you deprive these kids of safety and privacy and something more fundamental too, which is truth. If education is not grounded in truth, then it is worthless. Worse, it is poison. You are poison. You are predators. I can see why you try to stop us from speaking. You know that your ideas are indefensible. You silence the opposing side because you have no argument. You can only hide under your beds like pathetic little gutless cowards hoping we shut up and go away. But we won't. I promise you that. Thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon.
It's ironic, isn't it, that it's been left up to many conservative Christians to state biological reality? Growing up, I was on that side, and they weren't. Now the left has pulled so far into madness that the conservative Christians are the more pragmatic side. They lock arms with independent thinkers who function as the sane middle, like Colin Wright, Andrew Doyle, Gays Against Groomers, Christina Buttons, and Peter Boghossian. Podcast listeners at Peter Boghossian tweet. Impossible. I was repeatedly guaranteed that I was on the wrong side of history and called a Nazi. Hey Grok, did the court really vote 6-3 to ban these treatments for children? The forces that oppose them are powerful, as this statement by the American Psychological Association shows, but the resistance forces are stronger. Podcast listeners, a tweet by Megan Kelly. You people at APA are sick partisans masquerading as therapists. God help the parents who entrust their kids to you ghouls. And a tweet by the American Psychological Association. The Supreme Court's decision is a setback for science, public health, and human rights. Not only does it disregard decades of psychological research and clinical consensus, but it also jeopardizes the health and well-being of transgender youth across the country. Decisions about gender-affirming care should be grounded in scientific evidence and made collaboratively by parents, or guardians, and qualified healthcare providers, through individualized assessment of each child's medical, psychological, and developmental needs. And a tweet by Colin Wright. Breaking, WPATH and USPATH have just issued a joint statement condemning the Supreme Court's decision to allow states to ban sex change procedures for minors. They call the decision dangerous and insist that gender-affirming care is evidence-based. while paradoxically arguing that such bans will make it more difficult to create an evidence base to support access to healthcare of this kind. Every systematic review conducted to date has concluded that the evidence supporting the benefits of gender-affirming care is of low, very low quality, and that the known risks outweigh any purported benefits. The Democrats are collectively too stupid to understand that this is not the hill to die on. Says Elizabeth Warren, trans kids suffer when they don't get medically necessary care. This is the brazen political decision by the Supreme Court. My heart is with trans kids and their loved ones. I won't stop fighting to make sure they can be exactly who they are. And Chuck Schumer, Republicans' cruel crusade against trans kids is all an attempt to divert attention from ripping healthcare away from millions of Americans. We'll keep fighting and we'll keep marching on. And Cory Booker, today the Supreme Court chose to cast transgender children in the shadows, deciding they are not entitled to the protections of Equal Protection Clause. By upholding Tennessee's ban on medical care for transgender children, the court has legitimized discriminatory treatment of children. More than 24 states ban access to medical care for transgender children. This is a violation of the constitutional protections every child is entitled to and undermines American values of privacy and bodily autonomy. This heartless decision puts trans children in danger. The climate of fear. The left practiced the ritual of public struggle sessions and virtual stonings to silence any voices of sanity, like J.K. Rowling. When we watched one of the world's most famous and successful writers obliterated by the scolds and the activists, it sent a warning that if they can do that to her, imagine what they can do to us. Rowling did not flinch, not for 1 second, not for many years. Here is the tweet that started it all, on a headline that says, "Creating a more equal post-COVID-19 world for people who menstruate." And J.K. Rowling writes, "People who menstruate? I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Someone help me out. Womben, wimpound, womoned." Those of us who defended her were likewise caught up in the storm, called transphobes and TERFs. Advertisers would pull their ads from any website run by people who were convicted of such crimes by the hive mind that suppressed all dissent. Standing against any of it was dangerous. This was especially true during the 4 years of the Biden administration. Here is Miriam Grossman.
The claim that's coming out of Washington that there is no disagreement on this issue couldn't be further from the truth.
To parents of transgender children, affirming your child's identity is one of the most powerful things you can do to keep them safe and healthy.
There is no consensus among professionals and experts. There is a debate that's going on, but Washington is not acknowledging the voices that are on the other side. They are silencing us. They are acting like we don't exist. My message to them is, we do exist, and we're not going anywhere. These professionals have the arrogance, really, I have to call it arrogance, to tell parents that they don't know their child, they know better, after meeting with their child for a half an hour or 45 minutes, or even 3 or 4 times. They know better than the parents do, and the parents better get with the program because they're the ones that are going to harm their child. Now, that's pretty traumatic for parents to hear.
But in silencing all dissent, the activists gave us no path but total destruction, and hopefully a federal ban. The myth of the trans kid. If you think Mary and the Immaculate Conception are hard to believe, think about parents who declare their children were born in the wrong body and that only advances in mental health and big pharma could rescue them. What was it in the 1990s that convinced all of us that we don't know our own minds and we need mental health professionals to fix them for us? How easy to move from that to children needing to be fixed too. But we can see how they talked about it way back when, like this report on CNN.
My husband and I were at dinner with some business colleagues of his, and the wife asked, "Do you have photos of your children?" In seconds, I saw that she had found the photo of our little Cinderella. She went, "Is that your son? Oh no, no, you must not indulge your child this way. Our son liked to play dress up too. We did not indulge it. Today, our son is totally normal." Is indulgence the same as permission? I like to think that the permission that we gave Sadie in her early childhood allowed her to feel safe, so that when she did gain the ability to really articulate how she felt, after years of misery, I had a child who was so excited to be celebrating herself. Just look at the joy on her face. It's so pure.
Back in those early days, it was rare. It was so rare that some of us believed it. To have a special child was to be special. To be special was a way out of the normie trap of being an oppressor. As the left became more woke, strident, and fanatical, this ideology bloomed like a mushroom cloud. Here is Benjamin Boyce.
And lastly, I'm thinking about this concept of the trans kid and why that is being promulgated. And we can go through like all the money and the institutional things, and there's a lot of different ways to critique that. But if kids are given this opportunity to not be a man and not be a woman, that's a very powerful idea. That's very mythological too. That's godlike behavior. If you're free from sex, you're free from age, you're free from, it's like the Garden of Eden, like that fruit that they tasted was having babies and dying and giving your innocence over to work the earth, to go through labor. And if you could get away from that, you could be Peter Pan. You could just you could live your life completely beyond sex. It's a very, I want to use a mythological term, it's a very Luciferian way of using your will, or Gnostic. It's using your will and your intention and then technology and science to become superhuman, to excuse yourself from the filth and the disgustingness of human beings. So those are a lot of different ideas, and what I'm trying to grasp at is that there's a lot of different ways for us to approach this topic. I think somehow, I don't know if California's lost or not, or if America's lost or not. I mean, we're in the middle of Pride. I heard that there's 145 days that are celebrated for alternative sexualities or something, and not all of them. Not everybody celebrates Demisexuality Day or whatever, but religion is coming back into the world. If we don't understand what religion does and serves, and we want to say, well, that's mythology, we're past that, we're not going to understand how to deal with it as it ties society together, gives a bunch of people collective meaning. If we don't try to figure out how to engage with that collective sense-making process of tradition, of mythology, of storytelling, we're not going to give these kids any tools to understand themselves, and the people who have the mythology and all the money are going to win the day. So we need to really I think we need to get a little bit religious, a little bit spiritual, and really start to think in terms of storytelling, in terms of meaning making, while also understanding that there's realities.
Because they were sacred, and this was special, everyone had to walk on eggshells. Every news outlet was commanded to comply, and they obeyed. It took years before the New York Times posted even one critical story of gender-affirming care. Forget NPR and PBS. They were, and mostly still are, fully captured. Plenty of activists on the left have been trying to bring this up for debate and have made some significant ground, like the Blocked and Reported pod with Jesse Singal and Katie Herzog, like Megan Daum, and of course Jamie Reed and Corinna Cohn. Podcast listeners, a tweet from Jamie Reed: I raise a toast tonight in a pickle jar turned drinking glass to the disaffected libs, the gays and lesbians no longer welcome in the clubs, the cast aside and canceled, the parents escorted from school board meetings. This is our win too, and we earned it. And off of Corinna Cohn, aka Heterodork's tweet: as you listen to conservative activists hoard credit for today's Skermetti decision, Please remember, few of us who have been fighting this for years were ever going to get credit anyway, and it's not what motivates us. Their voices should not be discounted. They've also been out there talking to legislators, testifying, and ensuring bills are passed. They understand that it's only the Republicans, but they hope to convince Democrats someday. And while I appreciate the daily activism of people like Wesley Yang, I also saw those who were not willing to do the harder thing and vote for Trump, which was essential in ending the madness once and for all. Podcast listeners' tweets by Wesley Yang. On a tweet by Chase Strangio, whose case just died in the Supreme Court, Wesley Yang writes, "Historians and a sane posterity will marvel at the fact that the dominant political party of the world's imperial hegemon, at its zenith, rallied to this cause with greater unanimity than they did any other. All that will preempt the arrival of this sane posterity is the exercise of totalitarian power to compel speech and thought that the U.S. civil rights state spent 2 generations marshaling. Whether they will succeed is up to us." One of the people who did end up voting for Trump was Bridget Fetisi. She considers herself politically homeless and not a Trump supporter. But she did what had to be done, and did so in public. She was one of the many who flipped to Trump late in the game, helping him win.
Over the past decade, a lot of what I've been critiquing is what can really only be described as anti-civilizational behavior on the left. There are cities that have been burned. I've interviewed detransitioners on my other podcast, Walk-Ins Welcome. These interviews haunt me forever. That alone should be enough for me to vote against the left. The fact that there are children being sterilized, women who are cutting their boobs off and will never be able to breastfeed a child when they're young, when they're teens or in their 20s even, people who are making decisions that are irreversible will never have children. This alone should really be it. That should be it for me. You are brainwashing people into thinking that this is a rational solution to what is oftentimes a temporary problem. Then you also have people who have been canceled and their lives have been destroyed. I think about how when I'm tiptoeing around on social media over the years and tiptoeing around on YouTube, who am I actually running from in terms of being censored? It's not the right, it's the left. These are the people who are censoring us. I think about the fact that a large population of the people has been brainwashed into believing that you need a PhD to tell the difference between boys and girls, or that an old man is senile. And if you pointed those things out, you would be called either transphobic or you would be told that you are some kind of right-wing cult leader for pointing out that Biden was in decline and gaslit. I'm not worried about whether or not my daughter can have an abortion. I'm worried about whether someone's going to talk to my 3-year-old about their genitals. That is pressing to me. It should be pressing to you, even if you don't have a child yet, because this is psychotic stuff that shouldn't be in our preschools, our schools, and our education system. We also have no education system. All of these literacy rates are collapsing. People don't know how to do math and reading anymore.
It took a village. It took Abigail Schreier in her groundbreaking book, Irreversible Damage, 4 years ago.
Thank you.
Give me the elevator pitch for Irreversible Damage, the transgender craze seducing our daughters.
So in the last decade, there's been a sudden explosion, really, in teenage girls identifying as transgender. We've never seen anything like this before. The underlying condition, gender dysphoria or severe discomfort in one's biological sex, is something we've known about for 100 years, and it always predominantly afflicted boys and men. And now in the last decade, it's overwhelmingly teenage girls with no childhood history.
Megyn Kelly, to use her platform to amplify the strongest voices, moving the needle dramatically away from the fanatics on the left.
Yeah, this brings me to the July 14th of this year, Wall Street Journal opinion by several experts, experienced professionals, as they call themselves, involved in direct care for the rapidly growing numbers of gender-diverse youth from all over. These clinicians from Finland, the UK, Sweden, Norway, Belgium, France, Switzerland, South Africa, and even the United States, 9 countries represented, wrote this opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal a few days ago and said, and it was in response to the president of the Endocrine Society backing this alleged gender-affirming care. All of it is a misnomer. And they take issue with the suggestion that this is anything of the sort. They say he claimed that this gender-affirming care of the kind we've been discussing improves the well-being of transgender and gender-diverse people and reduces the risk of suicide. They write, this claim is not supported by the best available evidence. Every systematic review of evidence to date, including one published in the Journal of the Endocrine Society, has found the existence for mental health benefits of hormonal interventions for minors to be of low or very low certainty. By contrast, the risks are significant and include sterility, lifelong dependence on medication, and the anguish of regret. For this reason, more and more European countries and international professional organizations now recommend psychotherapy rather than hormones and surgeries as the first line of treatment. They go on to say that this guy, Dr. Ham, who runs the Endocrine Society in America, his claim that gender transition reduces suicide is contradicted by every systematic review, including the one published by the Endocrine Society, which states we could not draw any conclusions about death by suicide. They go on to say there is no reliable evidence to suggest that hormonal transition is an effective suicide prevention measure. I mean, this is so encouraging, is it not, to see this in the Wall Street Journal? People from all those countries, these are liberal countries. It's not like, I don't know, it's not like Russia. It's not like Vladimir Putin. You got the UK, you got Sweden, Norway, France, Switzerland, all these joining together to say, what are we doing?
It took Elon Musk buying Twitter and turning it into X, where it was no longer a violation to misgender someone, and voices of dissent could mobilize and rise. Here is Elon Musk.
I was essentially tricked into signing documents. This was before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion.
The SpaceX founder claims he only agreed to sign the papers that gave Vivian permission to undergo gender-affirming care because he was told she, quote, might commit suicide if he didn't.
I lost my son, essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
all right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead.
Billboard Chris, who has been out in the world wearing a sign that says children cannot consent to puberty blockers, was also celebrating today. A tweet by Billboard Chris, massive victory. In a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court has upheld Tennessee's ban on child transition. This sets an incredible precedent for all 26 states that have banned this madness. Much more work to be done, but we are winning the war on the greatest child abuse scandal in history. And here is a video of Billboard Chris running up the stairs like Rocky, declaring children cannot consent to puberty blockers. And most of all, the strong, beautiful, brave detransitioners who have done the much harder thing of defying a community that once embraced them, love-bombed them, elevated them, and rewarded them for sacrificing their bodies to the cult.
I don't know what to do anymore. I am now 20 years old. I started medically transitioning at 16. I got a double mastectomy before I was on hormones. And then a few months later, I was put on testosterone. This isn't the solution. Destroying my body, my life. I was a teenager. I didn't know better.
I'm sad for myself, of course, but I'm sad for humanity and the children. I'm angry. What's gonna happen to the kids and the youth? And there's so many, there's so many. When we get 30, 40-year-olds that are going to be like, what the f*** did I do when I was 16 or whatever, And you can't go back. I really, really hope that all these professionals get their friggin' karma, because I know that some of them don't realize, and some of them might be brainwashed and whatever, but some of them know exactly what they're doing.
I really feel like some people in the trans community and the trans medicalists and the doctors really, really target the most vulnerable of us. I have borderline personality disorder, and I know for a fact that this is the reason for my transition. It's a very difficult mental illness, and one of the core features is not having any sense of self or identity, and my doctors knew this. I wasn't happy as a girl, so that meant I was a boy and I was trans, and so I just took the cure that was handed to me. I was told that I was being given a cure, and I wouldn't want to kill myself anymore. And it wasn't true. There are so many mental health disorders that make you hate your body, and the solution isn't to change your body, it's to fix your brain, you know? I just don't want anyone else to ever feel this way. I lost my voice, I lost my chest. I don't know if I'm going to be able to have kids.
This is what happens when you give a woman testosterone. This is for 5 years. This is what happens, essentially. I got out of my haircut because my hair was driving me nuts. And I shaved it because I'm tired of watching my hair thin out, and it's less distressing if I shave it. So when I talk about being too far gone, I don't really know what else to call it. This is what I mean. This is how deep my voice is. It's gotten deeper over time, and it's settled. This is what I mean by hair loss, and it just keeps getting worse. It keeps thinning.
Whatever else this social contagion has done, it has more than proven that we are not a species that can go it alone. We need something bigger, higher, and more powerful than we are to guide us through these ethical and moral storms. It isn't worse to believe you are made in the image of God than to believe you were born in the wrong body and have to become a medical patient for life. All we did on the left was swap out traditional religion for the religion of the mental health industry. Our answers, we believed, were in pill form, in therapy, in self-help, in soft language. We had a solution for every trauma. But there could never be a real answer for the industry to survive, so we just kept chasing the dragon. The rise of Trump sent that carefully constructed delusion into chaos. What now? We had no answer, no solution, no pill. And so we began destroying ourselves, and every great thing we ever were or ever did. Something has to fill us up, or as Bob Dylan once said, you have to serve somebody. This isn't a plea to find religion. I haven't found it myself. A lifetime of atheism and a stubbornly skeptical mind have kept me from that sweet relief. But I have told my daughter more than once that going it alone is too hard. Knowing we're living only to die is too much of a burden for our fragile brains. So we construct all of these ways to make us okay with that unimaginable horror of our mere existence. There has to be a better way. I know what it is to stare into the abyss. I know what it is to see life as meaningless. But teaching kids that the answer to what ails them is destroying their own bodies proves the saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Why was it up to conservative Christians to save the left from itself? That's not a question I can answer. I can only say, thank you. And for what it's worth, God bless you. Thank you for listening to my podcast, sashastone.substack.com. And remember, to thine own self be true.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shirley Caesar.
I just want to say to Bob, thank you so much for writing such a wonderful song. If there ever was a time when man ought to follow God, the time is right now. In the 24th chapter of Joshua, about the 15th verse, I heard Joshua said, if it seem evil unto you today to serve the Lord, choose ye this day who you gonna serve. If I were you, I'd make up in my mind to come on the Lord's side. Let me share this song with you tonight. You may be an ambassador to England or France. You might like to gamble. You might like to dance. You may be the heavyweight champion of the world. You might be a socialite with a long string of pearls. Oh, you gotta serve somebody. Yeah, make up in your mind to come on the Lord's side. Yeah, I heard Bob Dylan say this. Hey, it might be the devil, let it be the Lord. You gotta serve somebody. Listen, you might be a preacher with your spiritual pride. You might be a city councilman begging things on the side. You might be rich or poor. You may be blind and lame. You may be living in another country under another name. You gotta serve somebody. I hear the Lord say, come on the Lord's side. Yes, sir. Come on and clap your hand, everybody. Now it might be the devil. Let it be the Lord. Come on and serve somebody.